When set boosters first came out, I actually gave them a rather positive grade. There were many reasons that I outlined in my video here for doing so, but one of the many factors was the list, an inclusion of reprint cards from throughout Magic's history that would appear in approximately 1 out of every 4 booster packs. Now, even if you're not a longtime viewer of this channel and have only watched me for a short while, you should know that one thing that I care very deeply about is reprints. Reprints of Magic the Gathering cards, because the cards that are the oldest and most powerful are often the most expensive, which becomes prohibitive for new players to enter the game, or even existing players to explore and adopt new formats, or even just build new decks in the ones that they love. Reprinting old cards helps decrease price and increase access, and it's something that pretty much since day one of this channel 8 years ago, I have been in favor of. So how could I not love the list, especially since, unlike expeditions and masterpieces, you would be getting list cards, again, approximately 1 in every 4 packs, as opposed to 1 in every 6 booster boxes, as was the case with masterpieces. What an amazing opportunity to give needed reprints to players in standard packs, without having to worry about messing up draft, or standard constructed, or having high-priced masters packs. On paper, the list was everything I could want. And while it wasn't the only factor in my rather high grade of set boosters, I must admit it was a big one. In fact, in that video, I commented on how good a feeling it would be for someone to crack open a scroll rack from the list, getting what was essentially at the time a $60, $70 card in a $4.50 standard booster pack, and literally that day someone sent me a pic of them doing just that, and I felt happy and confident in my assessment, and all was right with the world. But time makes fools of us all. As set boosters continued with each new set, and in many ways grew to become, well, the default booster pack of Magic the Gathering, the list's flaws became more and more evident, and I firmly believe, as of today, that the list is failing to accomplish many, or perhaps any, of those really admirable goals that first excited me to it and set boosters. But all is not lost. The list may be broken, but here is how to fix it. But first, a quick word about this video. This video is brought to you by Raycon wireless earbuds. You know, for many people, the idea of owning wireless earbuds is something that, much like Magic cards, feels to be prohibitively expensive. But that's one reason I love Raycon so much. Not only are you getting quality earbuds, but you're getting them at some of the best prices around. The new everyday earbuds offer an improved rubber oil look and feel. Gorgeous, cool, futuristic look. There's also a built-in mic, and you can take calls at the press of a button. Oh snap. Raycons have a 32-hour battery life and offer 8 hours of continuous playtime. Unlike some other brands, Raycons don't stick out of your ears and come with a bunch of optimized gel tips for your comfort and the perfect in-ear fit. They start at half the price of other premium audio brands, but they sound just as good. But best of all, with Raycon's return policy, you can try out these wireless earbuds and see if they are right for you. I think that just checking out my link will show you the price certainly is, so go to buyraycon.com/Tolarian community or click the link in the description now to get 15% off your Raycon purchase. Accessibility, affordability, and quality. Thank you, Raycon, for sponsoring this video. There are many problems with the list, and I'd like to reiterate, I like the idea of the list. In fact, I love the idea of it, but I do not think it has been implemented correctly. The first major problem I see with the list is no one can remember what is on the list. The list currently has 300 cards on it. To put that in perspective, standard sets usually have under 300 cards in them. For example, Adventures in the Forgotten Realms had 281, and Innistrad Midnight Hunt has 277. What makes the list hard to follow is that these 300 cards are an extremely random selection from throughout Magic's history. From Gitu Chronicler to Karoo to Nicol Bolas to Nuisance Engineer, the list not only is a scattered selection of cards, but it changes dramatically with each set. Usually, 50 cards are removed from the list with each new set and 50 added, so that's a 100 card difference to have to keep track of, though with Innistrad Innistrad, it was 75 new cards in and out, 150 cards total to pay attention to. I could not name the 75 cards that were taken off the list for Innistrad any more than I could name the 75 cards that were added, any more than I know with any certainty what the list looked like before and after those changes in terms of the complete 300. Yes, these cards are all listed online, but that doesn't make it any easier to wrap my head around what exactly is on the list. And with such a giant list, it makes it next to impossible to actually get any of the desired cards off of it with any certainty. Sure, there are cool cards on the list, but how likely are you to open one? Not very likely at all, which makes it worse that Wizards of the Coast has pointed to the list as the solution to them doing mechanically unique IP cards like Stranger Things and The Walking Dead, and saying, well, we're going to offer versions of these cards that are Magic the Gathering themed on the list. I think that the size of the list and the dramatic amount of its changing nature is a huge detriment. I do like the idea of the list changing from set to set, much like Masterpieces changed from set to set. In fact, I see a lot of connections between the list and Masterpieces. How is it that when they did Masterpieces from set to set, they resonated so strongly with players? Well, they had a theme, and there were usually only about 50 of them. Imagine if for Innistrad, the list was only about 50 to maybe 75 items long, and what was on the list was thematically tied to Innistrad. I honestly don't see why all of the most popular and memorable cards of past Innistrad sets, from Liliana of the Veil to Snapcaster Mage to Emrakul the Promised End and Selfless Spirit and both Thalias and on, can't be on the list, can't be what the list is. Imagine if the list was a selection of 75 of old Innistrad's greatest hits. That would be welcome, and that would resonate. I mean, what a great solution to how everyone loves and wants to see cards like Liliana of the Veil reprinted, but Wizards of the Coast doesn't want to warp standard around such reprints. So fine, stick it on the list. Snapcaster Mage was added to the list for Innistrad. Did you know that it was on there? I didn't, and it being 1 out of 300 cards, I sure didn't get it when I opened up a total of 5 set booster boxes for the Innistrad set booster box game. In fact, out of those 5 set booster boxes, only a couple cards from the list were even worth anything, as most were odd commons and uncommons that see no play anywhere. Which brings me to the next big problem with the list. There are more worthless cards than worthwhile cards on the list. This one is very easy to prove. Honestly, the selection of cards on the list is just confounding. Why is Treacherous Werewolf on the list, or Snubhorn Sentry? Is there any reason to open these in a more expensive set booster pack? If the point of the list is to help justify the larger price of set boosters, and the point of set boosters is to cut out draft chaff and just give cards that people who don't play draft want for their collections and for their decks, then shouldn't the cards on the list be cards that people want to collect and play? It's very easy to determine if Nightshade Peddler, an 8-cent card, is played, well, anywhere. And I'm not against low-value cards being on the list, but at least make those commons and uncommons that people play with. Tortured Existence is at least used in Pauper and Commander, but why is Jubilant Mascot on here? I'm not saying every single card needs to be a $50 powerhouse, but why are basic lands on the list? Why are wastes? Why are conspiracy draft cards on the list? You can't even play with those. The other ones, you don't need them. I mean, set boosters were designed to eliminate draft chaff from booster packs, and then they went and put a bunch of draft chaff on the list and put that in set boosters. Again, I feel that looking more at the Masterpiece formula of somewhere between 50 to 75 thematically linked cards can cut out so much of that chaff. And let's be honest, the list is mostly chaff. Hey, how about Delver of Secrets with the original art on the list. That's clever. That's not an expensive card, but throwing it on with the classic art is a fun pull. People might want to run it in any number of formats, maybe even in standard. And if the idea of the list being 50 to 75 cards on theme for Innistrad has you worried that cool reprint options get forced out, for example, I loved that Scroll Rack was on there. Is on there? Is it on there still? Maybe. But again, much like Masterpieces, we could put Scroll Rack on the list only with special Innistrad art. Imagine an Innistrad Scroll Rack. Which brings me to, cards on the list don't feel special. In an era where we are seeing an explosion of wild and exciting treatments on cards, from showcase cards with stylistic frames and alternate art to secret layer cards that push far past the typical boundaries of Magic art to offer wild and unexpected styles, opening up a common on the list from Khans of Tarkir that is just a photocopy of that card with an awkward Planeswalker symbol pasted onto it is a huge letdown. And when I say letdown, I mean it. There really isn't a reason to collect list cards. The originals are much more coveted because, well, they're original. I think that making something special and collector-worthy about list cards would not only be awesome, and that by itself is a pretty good reason, but it would make them cards that people are excited to get. And maybe even if they open up one that isn't worth a lot of money, they'll still be excited to get it because it has, let's say, a special treatment to it. And yes, this keeps going back to Masterpieces, but how cool would it be if Ancient Tomb, a card currently on the list, was offered on the list for the Innistrad sets with Innistrad art? You could even keep Ancient Tomb on the list as we go to Kamigawa and then offer it with Kamigawa art. Training Ground, a card currently on the list, but imagine how everyone would be talking about how they want it for their deck if it had Innistrad art. Cruel Tutor, Land Tax, they're both on the list, and I bet many of you didn't even know that those cards were on it, even though they're expensive. They're played by a lot of people in a lot of places, but if they had been offered with special Innistrad art, it would have been talked about. You would have been like, yeah, I know that those cards are on the list because people are excited for it. When you start cutting off the chaff, focusing the picks, uniting it with theme and plane-related artwork, suddenly everybody covets it. Everybody wants it. People would be buying set boosters just to get all 50 or 75 cards for their set. Look at that set. We'd want the set of them. Yes, it would cost Wizards of the Coast money to commission new artwork, but they're also charging us more money for set boosters, so instead of saying it's because there's a chance at more rares, which again, if you saw from my 5 set boxes opened for the booster box game, was not even always the case, and none of those passed. But if the list was transformed to look a lot more like Masterpieces had been done, maybe the value in those packs would help justify the idea of people buying and cracking them. Years ago, someone from Wizards of the Coast once said to me, and playfully I will add, it was at a social gathering, we were having fun, but they did say to me, it would be nice if you told people to buy booster packs. To which I replied, well, if it was worth it to do so, then I would. I actually thought back to that moment a lot when set boosters first came out, and it looked like the idea at the time was to try and make booster packs that, yeah, you want to crack outside of draft. And I liked that idea. Again, I got a lot of fair criticism by a lot of viewers for the high grade I gave set boosters at the time. And like I said, fair enough. I've certainly reconsidered since. But the list is a great idea, only one that's been implemented poorly. Make the list something memorable. Make the list have worthwhile cards on it, not endless weird commons and uncommons that nobody plays with or wants. Maybe make the list have a unified theme, even if that theme is just what Masterpieces did by showing us reprinted cards manifested on different planes. Give them something special like new artwork, or again, those cool Masterpiece full art styles. Give them style. Make them something collectors want, that players want to open and are excited to collect. At the end of the day, it is my opinion that what made Masterpieces so memorable is what makes the list so forgettable, so much like a slush pile of sloppy reprints. When those 75 cards added for Innistrad rotate out, I don't think many people will look back on them or even remember half of them were there in the first place. Nobody is going to seek them out to own or ooh and ah when they get played. No one wants to collect them. The impact is minimal, but it doesn't have to be. The list can become the shining example of why set boosters are booster packs that are worth it to buy and crack, though, of course, for that to happen, there would need to be some other changes to set boosters, but that's another video. But now I want to hear from you. Do you like the list in its current form? Would you like to see it improved, and if so, how? Or do you dislike the idea of it at all? Do you not want it here? Do you want it gone? Let me know your thoughts on the list in the comments below. And remember, you can go to buyraycon.com/Tolarian community or click the link in the description now to get 15% off your Raycon purchase. Affordability, accessibility, and quality. Thank you again to Raycon for sponsoring this video.